You are listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Leon. Let's go! Hi guys, welcome to episode number 60 of Ace Comicals. And it is just me and Leon again, so... Hi, Leon.
Hey there.
Hello, yes. Just the two of us, but as always, we have plenty to tell you about. And I'm going to open up with the fact that I have been pretty much binging the second season of Sabrina. Now, it's no secret that we are huge fans of Sabrina on this show. We talked about a Sabrina comic just episode last, and we did a show where we discussed at length, and I mean at length, because it was like a 2-hour show or something, wasn't it?
2.5 or something.
Yeah, the first season of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina when that came out on Netflix last year. And there's a bit of a theme with the way they're releasing these, because this one's been released around Easter, and Sabrina being what it is, it's tied into Satanism, religion, pagan. It's Satanism, Christian religion, paganism, all those kinds of things, like a confluence of stuff.
The occult.
Yes, the occult. And being released around Easter, it has some of those themes included in it.
So, non-spoilery, how are you?
Yeah.
What are your general feelings on it? Because you've watched most of it so far, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, this show just goes from strength to strength. I love it. I'm like, I've got half an hour left of the last episode, so that's how far we've got. And I only started watching this like 2 days ago, so.
The full binge, like Netflix got you.
It's been my weekend, yeah. It's just like, but I've been doing, it's like the classic binge as well. Like, I've been sat there, like me and my girlfriend have been sat there with like packets of cookies on the coffee table. And like, I had like a carton of banana milkshake and some cereal. And then in between Sabrina, when Sophie's not been watching Sabrina because she's been off doing the things that she has to do, I've been watching episodes of TAS.
How far are you through TAS at the moment? Or are you like dashing back and forth?
Back and forth. Like if I want to if I watch an episode, if I want to go back and watch the episode again, I will. I think I'm like my Blu-ray set. It's just all. I think I'm on disc 3 or 4, and I've just watched the Zatanna episode. And then I watched the Shadow of the Bat 2-parter, which is the introduction of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. So nice. That's actually the last episode I watched, Shadow of the Bat Part 2.
So you've been like taking your downtime from Sabrina has been Batman TAS. You can't complain. No,
that's how it's been for the past 3 days. And I actually, that was my Friday night actually, Batman TAS. So yeah, that's where I've been. That's what I've been doing. But yeah, I mean, Sabrina season 2 is absolutely fantastic. The show goes from strength to strength, and Kiernan Shipka is a really, really good actress. Like, she is so good, especially in this second season as Sabrina. And there's just so many brilliant things. I don't want to spoil it because there's a lot of things. It's hard to talk about this without spoilers. Yeah,
because as from what I can ascertain, the show pretty much just moves episode to episode. Like, there's no reset per season, is there?
No.
Yeah.
It just carries on. I mean, they even actually in the numbering on Netflix, it's part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
So they don't really separate them by season. They just say Sabrina part 1 is the first few episodes, and Sabrina, you had that Christmas special type thing, and then there was Sabrina part 2, which is like another 9 episodes. So yeah, it doesn't really have a reset. It just carries on like a second chunk, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all really, really good, and it definitely builds on the solid foundation that it set up last year, in really interesting ways. and some of it is things that you might have been able to see coming, and some of it is stuff that it'll just be like a right hook out of nowhere, basically. But it is a really, really good show, and yeah, if you're not already watching it, you need to get on it. And maybe go back and check out the previous episodes where we've talked about it as well.
Where we go in super deep.
Yeah, I'd like to go in super deep on season 2 when all of us have watched it. Maybe we'll see how that goes, because I know there's a few things actually that I would really love to get in and discuss properly, but I am bound by the laws of spoilers at the moment. Yes, so on top of that, in my usual floating around the internet, I've come across a few things that I'm looking forward to. But before that, Leon, you've been trying to complete some kind of mammoth task where you've been trying to rewatch like every MCU movie up to Captain Marvel.
Yeah, after watching Captain Marvel a few weeks ago, I remember I was looking at my Google Calendar, and I have like a releases schedule on there for like lots of big movies and stuff, and seeing where Endgame was, I remember looking at the calendar and thinking, man, I could rewatch all of the MCU in that time, because like Game of Thrones is back as we record this. Game of Thrones comes on tonight in the US, but it would have been a couple of days ago by the time you guys hear this. But I had wanted to, after season 7, to go back and rewatch all of Game of Thrones in the run-up to the final season, but I never got around to it. And it's like, it's funny that we're in this period where this April, two, like, almost, one is longer than a decade, the other one almost a decade running, like, pop culture capturing sagas are coming to the end, or like the end of their particular branch, because like the MCU will continue, but it'll be a new phase. And it's funny that all this has happened at the same time. So I wasn't able to do Game of Thrones, but looking at that calendar, I thought, I can rewatch all of the MCU in that time. It's only 22 weeks, and one of them still in the cinema. So, yeah, this is possible. I can do this. So I, like, sort of mapped out, created a spreadsheet that I showed Greg and Rahul, and, yeah, it's, like, laid it out, put it by directors, and I wanted to score it so that at the end I could, like, order them in terms of make a definitive list for myself over what I think are the best to worst MCU movies. And, yeah, I started that task, and it's gone surprisingly well, actually. Like, at the moment, I'm near the end of Phase 2, so I've just got Ant-Man to go, and then I'm on to Civil War and the rest of Phase 3, which is the phase with the most, like, movies in it. Because it goes 6 in Phase 1, 6 in Phase 2, then it jumps up to, like, 9 or so in Phase 3. So, yeah, I started, went all the way back to Iron Man, 2008's Iron Man, and, yeah, it's been quite a ride. Most of these movies I've seen multiple times anyway, but there's a few here and there that I'd only ever seen in the cinema, or, like, maybe, once in the cinema and then another time over at a friend's in the background while we were talking, because the MCU are very good movies for just social repeat watching, even if you're not as big a fan of a particular movie, it does work as a like repetition type thing. Like I think they all get better on repeat watches, even the movies I don't like that much.
Yeah. And
yeah, it's been not really eye opening, but more I don't know, refreshing in a way, because like your mind and like discourse around a particular movie like helps establish this narrative that maybe you disliked or liked this movie more than you actually think you did. So like going back, I think I like every single movie I've watched so far more so than I did having watched them the last time. And I don't know if I've been vocal about it on the show, but I've never been a big fan of the first two Thor movies. And I was never really a big fan of Iron Man 2 or The Incredible Hulk. But on rewatch, there's still movies that are probably going to end up near the bottom of my list. But they're all better films than I remember them being, despite some of them having some really big flaws. But I mean, I could do a whole episode recapturing the MCU, and because I've got a lot of thoughts about each movie going through, and I've been trying to do like a little catch up on Instagram.
Maybe post Endgame, we will.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of thoughts, and I think Endgame and all the movies coming after, I think they help all the past movies, because, say for instance, I never disliked, but I was never mega hot on Captain America: The First Avenger. But where we are now in the story, a lot of that stuff that I probably didn't care as much about in that movie, like all the stuff that's happened subsequently, just feeds back and actually makes that stuff a lot stronger. And I definitely think that I underrated that movie a lot in my watch and memories of it since. But yeah, I think that would probably be a good idea, like, because it's interesting on a number of levels, not just them being big spectacle movies based on superheroes, but also how they sort of shaped and changed like pop culture on a mass, and it's like the most successful franchise in cinema history, and it's one of probably the only example of a company, and they were the first company to do it, a shared universe of movies, and it actually is still going, where everything else that has tried to copy has sort of failed. So I think there's a lot to talk about, and also just the very notion of monoculture in a way, and like how, especially with Disney buying them, have they taken a particular safe route to secure like big box office, and are they like risk averse in some ways? But then, but also what it means in terms of the actual source material, and how the movie versions of these characters have shaped the public consciousness's identity or feeling of identity for all these characters. But in many ways, it's not what the actual characters were, and what the changes for what have the changes been for the better, and what have they been for the worse. I think there's a lot of meat to dig into. So maybe if we get time, we can chat crap on the mic for 2 hours.
We should, yeah. For me, definitely from the point of view that these movies have influenced and changed the source material, because they've grown so big and so powerful in their kind of like
influence,
I didn't want to use the word influence again. I was looking for another word, but in the way that they've influenced pop culture and everything else, they've become so big and so powerful that their gravitational pull has warped the actual source material for better or worse. And it's interesting to see the changes that have come in via the movies into the actual comics themselves. And you know what? I actually quite like it, how that's worked in some places as well. It's like, it's really, really good. It's been really good. It's been really good for comics, actually.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot Disney can do better to help the comics out. And that's something we've spoken about before offline, and I think we could have a good discussion about that in that episode. But one thing I'll just leave it at this point is that I think the biggest strength of the MCU so far, beyond whatever else it has been that people like Kevin Feige have done, I think the best and probably the key and backbone to their success is their casting. I think their casting directors have worked magic, and across the board, like 99% of the people cast in their various roles have just knocked out of the park, or in a lot of cases done a lot with a little bit of material, and I just think that the reason it's as big as it is like a lot of that is due to just how good the cast are and their chemistry.
Yeah, indeed. Moving on from there, it is like a list of things that I'm looking forward to now, because there's a few things like in my floating around the internet that I have sort of like come across that are happening next month. All of these are from May actually. So we'll start off with this thing that I happened across called DCeased. The D and C are capitalised and it's DCeased. And
I don't get it.
You don't get it?
No.
Well, this is a 6-part series starting in May, and Darkseid is, or at least appears to be, the main antagonist / root cause trouble of the story, because Cyborg comes back from Apocalypse, infected with the anti-life equation, which spreads via the internet and social media, and all hell breaks loose from there, and it looks really, really cool. And on the surface of it, it's kind of like an I don't want to say zombie story, because I don't know, is it a zombie story, isn't it? It's not, I don't know. It's like basically it's an infection that spreads and people become infected, and it's how the Justice League and whoever deal with this. And it's self-contained as well. It doesn't sound like you actually have to do any reading to understand any of it. So you don't have to know what's currently going on in the DC universe to get this event. And yeah, I saw some really cool horror movie covers, which I have posted on the Ace Comicals Twitter account. These like horror movie variants that they've released for it, which are beautiful. All kind of like riffs on classic horror movie posters. My favourite one being the Nightmare on Elm Street one.
Yeah, that one's great.
Yeah, which is Batman and Ivy, and that one's great.
The It one is pretty good as well.
Yeah, the It one's cool. With Robin and the Joker. But the Nightmare on Elm Street one's just definitely my favourite. But I read some preview pages for it as well. It's looking good. It is the same writer as the Injustice comics, which, you know, obviously that could have been that was the video game tie-in for the Injustice game. So it's the same writer, and they were relatively well received. People like those, so be interesting to see where this goes. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Also on here, Batman and the Outsiders are coming back. So I was looking at this and I was fairly excited for this because I like my classic Batman and the Outsiders comics. This is Batman's team outside of the Justice League, and they do things that that the Justice League might not necessarily agree with, but Batman, obviously, you know, these are the people that he calls on to get things done when the Justice League probably wouldn't want to help him. And this is this is coming out on the 8th of May, and we've got a preview blurb for it from League of Comic Geeks, which is the website I use to keep track of all my comics stuff. So, when the quest for justice drives Batman into some morally ambiguous areas, he calls in the most moral man he knows, Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, and his team of operatives known as the Outsiders. Several years ago, Batman personally put the Barrera family into hiding after they suffered through terrible experiments at the hands of an organisation called the Ark. Now, all but one of them has turned up dead, and Batman needs to locate Sofia Barrera before the wrong people get their hands on her and her surprising power. But it wouldn't be Batman without a hidden agenda, would it? And when Black Lightning, Katana, the Signal, and Orphan find out what Batman is really up to, their every loyalty will be called into question. And this is Batman in the Outside. So we've got writer Brian Hill, artist Dexter Soy, cover art by Tyler Kirkham. I've got variant cover by Stepan Serik. I think that's how. I'm sorry if I've said your name incorrectly. I do apologise. And yeah, it just sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's Batman and the Outsiders back. Other things we've got in May, obviously, new comic book, free comic book day, new comic book day, new comic book days every Wednesday. It's free comic book day, and that is what, only 20 days away now, Leon.
Yes, yeah. It's rapidly approaching.
Yes, and I've been having a quick look over what's going to be available on free comic book day, and
which is good of you, because I only ever check on the Friday or the Saturday morning.
Yeah, I just had a quick run through now, because I thought we're 20 days out. I'm going to have a look at the list, and there's some pretty cool stuff. There's a Stranger Things comic,
of course,
which has Jeff Lemire on it. There is a Buffy and Firefly comic, which is Greg Pak, Geordie Belair, Ethan Young. And Greg Smallwood did the cover, so that'll be quite nice. It's a perfect jumping on point for the Whedonverse, as they describe it, with all new stories from the worlds of Boom Studios' hit series Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly. So is
that new Buffy or old Buffy?
It's new
comic-wise.
It's new Buffy.
Okay.
So, also, on top of that, actually, to go along with new Buffy, they've started doing a new Angel book, which just kind of came out of nowhere. So
yeah, I've seen that advertised, yeah.
Yeah, that's on its way as well. But yeah, I mean, this is the free comic book day for kind of like an advert for Boom's Whedonverse stuff. Because Boom have all of the Whedonverse things now, apparently. There's a Riverdale book, which is like...
is it Riverdale the show?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, see where it all begins in this brand new story based on the smash hit CW series Riverdale. Riverdale the Day Before. Riverdale the Day Before is the writer who writes this has written something called Riverdale the Day Before, which is kind of set like a prequel to the Riverdale show. We've got this, the Stranger Things book. There's a Turtles book, which I'm really looking forward to, which is part of the road to the 100th issue, which I am super stoked for, and I will be grabbing this one. And New York City has just erupted into war as Splinter battles Karai for control of the Foot Clan, with the Turtles caught in the middle. Find out how the Turtles got to this point as they battle some of their fiercest foes in this special free comic book day offering. So I think that's kind of like a gonna be kind of framed like a recap, like this is what has happened so far, and that'll be worth grabbing. There's some Avengers one. There's a Doctor Who book. There's always a Doctor Who book.
There literally always there's a Doctor Who book.
Yeah, I mean there's some really cool stuff. There's a one that caught my eye called Interceptor, which has got Donny Cates on it and Dylan Burnett. Polly has a mech suit and a mission. Weep has machine guns and a temper. Together they lead a band of freedom fighters on a planet populated exclusively by blood-sucking vampires, a planet called Earth. Donny Cates and Dylan Burnett bring you neon-drenched, blood-soaked, all-out vampire warfare. And this is the Dylan Burnett from Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Okay.
So, yeah, that is probably going to be very good. I'm looking forward to that. Pokemon I Choose You.
Oh, yeah, there's always a Pokemon book, isn't there?
Yeah. There's a new tale from the world of Animosity, which is Animosity is a comic that's been on Aftershock. On the day known as the Wake, the animals rose up. They began thinking, talking, and taking revenge. This free comic book day, we bring you the intertwined tales of 3 lives and a date with destiny amid a black comedy apocalypse. But yeah, there's tons and tons and tons of stuff. So, I mean, the list is live on the Free Comic Book Day website, so you can go check it out. But those are just a few of the ones that stood out to me, basically. But there's a whole list of things here.
What do you think's going to get swooped up?
What I think is going to go first?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that that Turtles one might go quite quick, and possibly that Stranger Things one. Maybe the Buffy one as well, because these are things that are all in the zeitgeist at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, the Buffy one, I can see that. moving.
Stranger Things one, maybe the Avengers. one
yeah, Stranger. Yeah. Of course, yeah. That's the
Stranger Things one's gonna go. The Avengers one's gonna go. Oh, there's a Catwoman one as well. Under the Moon, a Catwoman Tale, a graphic novel illustrated by Isaac Goodhart. And when 15-year-old Selena Kyle becomes homeless, she must confront questions of who she is and who she will become. From New York Times bestselling author Lauren Miracle and artist Isaac Goodhart comes a story about a teenage Catwoman as she struggles to find her own identity while living on the streets of Gotham City. This free Comic Book Day special edition features a chapter from DC Inc.'s upcoming original graphic novel Under the Moon, a Catwoman Tale, plus a sneak peek at Teen Titans Raven, another DC Inc. graphic novel. That'll probably be worth checking out as well. And that'll probably go quite quickly, I reckon.
Yeah. Like, it's funny that there's always certain ones, each one where I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to push some cosplayers out of the way because I need this one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little kid. I'm sorry. I'm happy you're enjoying your first free comic book day. You want to get this particular thing, but I'm here. I'm here for this.
It ends with us kind of like crouching down, trying to bargain with a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Look, come on, man. Look.
The thing is, though, that is one of the better elements of free comic book day.
Yeah.
Not the trying to rip off kids, but more because some of the shops, so I think like Forbidden Planet often give you a random selection in a bag.
Yeah.
And then what can be really nice of that when you're lining up somewhere else to go in, and someone else you might overhear, which is something that we've spoken about on the cast before. We overheard somebody needed a particular issue, and I think it was Rahul who had it, and he like offered up, I've got a duplicate of this, or like, I don't care about this, take this. And it's like, I think that element of it is really nice because you get it's a cool opportunity to talk to other people who are like who are like interested.
Indeed, was that
also
the Rick and Morty one?
Someone's day. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Rick and Morty. I remember one year we've either last year or the year before there was a Rick and Morty comic that went very very quickly.
Yeah, I think it was the year before.
Yeah, when Rick and Morty was big news. Yeah.
Well, it was when the show was still on.
Yeah. I mean, Rick and Morty still is big news to some people. But yeah, back in those heady days when Rick and Morty was big news and we were all younger.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah, different times, man. And that's it. Yeah, that's everything I'm looking forward to coming up in May. So there's a whole list of things there for me to look forward to. And there's a thing coming in July that I spotted, actually, Leon, that I wanted to bring up with you. Because I thought you might appreciate it. And it looks to me like, as a Dragon Ball fan, it looks to me like the logical ending of Dragon Ball in comic form. And this is going to be published by Dark Horse Comics. And this is called No One Left to Fight. And this is on shelves in July. And this is just... the artwork for it is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. It looks like really cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like artwork you'd get for Street Fighter that wasn't on the packs. But you'd see it like on posters and stuff like that, and it's like it's more detailed than what the normal artwork is like. Do
you know what the first thing that came into my head was when I saw it? Ashura's Wrath.
Oh yeah.
But it's that kind of like, in fact, it looks very Ashura's Wrath. It's that kind. It looks like it's going to be that kind of like OTT action anyway. Yeah,
where it's just like just ridiculous, like larger than life, punching planets type thing.
Yeah, throwing planets at each other type stuff. Yeah, definitely. And I'm actually looking forward to it. And the artwork and the character designs look really cool. And there's more than a little bit of, like, when you look through some of the character designs and you hear them described, when you read the descriptions for the characters, there's more than a little bit of influence from Dragon Ball in there. I mean, there's two that are... the first two that I've seen here, they are basically just Goku and Vegeta.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
no two ways about it. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And that is No One Left to it's called No One Left to Fight, and it will be published on Dark Horse. It's a mini series, and that is Aubrey Stitterson and Fico Ossio. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. So I guess we'll both be picking that up in July then, Leon.
Yeah, I'll be checking it out.
Yeah, I'll give it a look. I'm hoping it's as mad as I want it to be.
Well, I like the idea of it being in that tradition, like a big fighty, like mangarish book, but also it being on Dark Horse. It reminds me a lot of Dark Horse comics of my youth, and where they're a bit more edgier, a bit more dark. So I'm hoping, like, it looks nice and colourful, so I'm hoping we get a good mix, and all the different influences sort of bleed through, and we get something quite fun.
Indeedy, and this is, I guess what this is now is we're getting a whole generation of creators where manga and anime have shaped Western superhero ideals.
Yeah, we I think in the last sort of decade we saw a lot of that bleeding through to Western animation, and you'd see like certain designs in comics which adopted a lot more manga and anime visual tropes. And I think what's happening now is that we're getting the sort of evolution of that, where instead of it being, it's all quite individual and still very Western, but the influences are beneath the surface and bubbling through. But it doesn't feel like it's just a Western version of like manga.
No,
I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, it's its own thing, but it's obviously taken a lot of influence from that. And these are people that have probably grown up watching the same things we've grown up watching and things like that. And that's what's kind of cool about it. I like that. Yeah, that is the list of things that I'm looking forward to. I suppose there's one more thing actually that we should bring up before we move on to start reviewing comics, and that is the Joker trailer that got released. Yeah. Was it like a week ago now? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, time moves really weird now. I think a week.
Yeah, it's strange. It's still light at 8 o'clock at night, and that's not right. It didn't used to be like that. No, but this Joker trailer, which is Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. How do we feel about that? Because on first impressions, I've watched that trailer like 3 or 4 times now, and I'm on board. I don't know about you, but I'm on board.
Well, I think my opinions are pretty much the same as they were before the trailer. Where for me, it's a case where this is not a movie I would have asked for, because I don't really care to have any origins of a Joker. But with that said, I kind of like the idea of DC Warner Brothers getting a bit more loose, like their animation department, and in their animation department, they're covering different DC stories all the time, and because there's no big cinematic canon they have to feed into, or some cinematic universe, it doesn't matter. You can just adapt a comic book into a nice 90-minute animation. And I like the idea that, like in comics, you can have one-shots, which non-canon or canon, whatever, that explore a particular character and delve into their psyche a bit and give us a decent understanding. I think that's commendable if they're going to do that, because this is something that we're never going to get with Marvel, really, in terms of live action. But I like the idea of being able to do that, and because obviously we got Jared Leto, who's a Joker, who was in Suicide Squad, and this is obviously not connected to that at all. It seems to be in its own thing, and I hope DC make more movies that are not part of an extended universe. So Yeah, I mean, I'll see it. It's the thing is though, like I think Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, and I think he's going to knock it out the park. I think the cast that they've assembled are really good. Lots of actors that I like in other things, who have excelled in the other things that I've seen them in. I would hope, because originally this was being produced by Scorsese, but he left last summer, I think. But like watching that trailer, you can see why. Like, there are so many like visual influences from like Scorsese of that era, stuff like King of Comedy, that I worry that it might end up being like too much of a homage and or lack its own identity.
A lot of people have been making the Taxi Driver comparison.
Yeah, I think that's in there. I mean, it's that whole decade of like Scorsese work that you can feel it sort of bleeding through, and obviously the movie's like shot in New York and Jersey, so it will be interesting. I hope it's not just a sort of Diet Pepsi version of Scorsese, and I hope that it's using the Scorsese syntax and to tell a story like this, featuring like a supervillain, but in a more grounded, but like I don't know, like brutal but also honest way. So I'm hoping they do that, and I hope this movie's R-rated. Because that hasn't been confirmed yet, but I just don't see how you do a Scorsese-esque Joker film and it'd be PG-13.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be R-rated from that trailer.
I really hope so. But then that's what they did to Suicide Squad, didn't they? Because I think at one point they were teasing that it was going to be R-rated. But I hope it is. I'm not the biggest fan of Todd Phillips' stuff, but I think there's ample opportunity for him to do something special.
I thought Scorsese was still on board with it in some way, shape, or form as well. I didn't know he left it completely.
No, he was producing at the beginning, but it was only for a short amount of time, and that might have been to get in the room, like the producer's writer's room, just to throw some ideas out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think he, if I remember correctly, he's no longer part of it. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It's got like a mid-tier budget that makes it feel like it's going to be an R-rated movie. So I hope it is, because I think it could do something really special in the same way that Fox did with like Logan, where Logan wasn't beholden to anything else before it, really.
Yeah.
In ways it was like an Elseworlds tale.
Yeah.
And that 100%, and it was R-rated obviously, that 100% worked in its benefit. And if they could do something similar with this, obviously in a different style and tone, but if they can do something similar with this, then I think it could be something special and hopefully open the door for some more adult tellings of these stories without them having to rely on big budget CGI beams in the skies and stuff.
Definitely. I mean, I'm totally on board after this Joker trailer. Like, it looks like my sort of story, so I really want to watch it. And what you just said about Logan has reminded me, because I knew there was something that I've been meaning to pick up on Blu-ray. Now just reminding me what it is. It's like, there it is, Logan. Yes. I need that in my life again. It's such a good film. Another thing about this Joker trailer, I've been seeing a lot of comparisons of the footage from the Joker trailer of Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger. Like, people have done like a video of them both side by side.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it is the internet, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I mean, we know Heath Ledger's the best Joker, but just let it be its own thing, man.
Yeah, I think the problem when it comes to all this stuff online, I think we just have to get into a position where maybe we just ignore all the noise because I think that you hear all this stuff and all this like whining, complaining, and blah 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 blah. But then at the end of the day, it has no bearing on what happens on the end product.
Mm.
And I think all like pre-takes are. I think it's fun and interesting to I don't know, to like. I don't know, to theorize and to get together and talk about what you think is going to happen. But I think when it gets obsessive, I don't think it really serves anything. I think people should just be on the lookout, and if it looks like something they want to check out, they should go and see it.
Exactly.
But I think you can't keep comparing because I think it's going to be different things.
Indeed. Indeed. And I guess with that, we should move on to some of the comics that we have for review today. So, I'm going to open this up by saying that we have been given a advanced copy of These Savage Shores number 4. So, I mean, we've talked about this on previous episodes, talked about this comic on previous shows. The last time we mentioned These Savage Shores was in episode number 54, and now issue 4 is on its way, and that will be available on May 1st, and we've had it here early to read, and I've read it, and I absolutely love where this story is headed, and also that it appears to defy classification. It's like a melting pot of delicious ideas that work in perfect harmony, and I'm not going to dig too much into the events of this particular issue, but I will say that vengeance is wrought and tensions start to come to a boil. And yeah, I mean, I'm actually, you know what I will do? I will read out the preview text. The shadow of war is cast over the land, where people and promises are broken alike. The smell of blood calls to beasts. Now is the time of monsters, along these savage shores, where hope is folly and fortune is the lie of a cruel whim. Now, everything about it is just like such a great story. It's such a grand story about these mythical creatures. In fact, one of the biggest draws of it for me is the characterization of the mythical creatures with the Rakshasas and the vampires, and their kind of like power struggle in where they are at the moment. And it's just gets the claws on this book just get sharper and sharper as we get new issues of it, and the art just gets better and better. It's so good. Within this issue, there are some particularly nice examples of silent panels in the pages, and this kind of allows the art to speak for itself and do what it's good at, which is being amazing at conveying the mood and really drawing you into the heavy atmosphere of the book itself. And you really do get pulled into some of these pages, and especially with some of these full page panels that we get, these fantastic full pages and these large panels that we get given on some of the pages, these kind of like large spread panels that show us kind of like a scene or give us a kind of a panoramic view of something. And there is some beautiful expression work and close-ups of faces alongside some really awesome visual action that flows wonderfully from panel to panel. There is a particular panel and action sequence that condenses various beats of an epic clash into one single fluid image, and several moments appearing as one, as if these moments are so fleeting and so quick that if they showed it any other way, we'd have missed it. And for me, that is like this book doing something special with the power of sequential art. That is like, for me, that is like what I mean. We've talked before about how comics can do this interesting thing where they can show several concurrent moments all at once, like things that are happening, because if we take a panel as a measure of time, then you can get it where you get things that are happening milliseconds apart, but what they do is they kind of place them on the page in a way that they're all happening at once, like radial panels around a center panel or something like that. And it's just kind of like, with this is like one panel, but there are no gutters, there's no borders or anything like that, if you will. It is just events in one panel. in one horizontal panel, all happening at once, all as part of the same piece of art, and it's great. And it's just perfect example again here in this book for me, which is this book continues to do interesting things mechanically and at the same time tells a compelling historic mythical beast tale. And if you're not already following this book, then why not? Is all I'm going to say and how I'm going to leave it, because yeah, you need to get on this. And with this issue 4 as well, which is out next month, it's definitely worth putting in the time reading the first 3. Pick them up, read them. Get ready for this one because you're going to love it. It's great. And these guys do some fantastic work. And I will give you a rundown of the team. So it is written by Ram V, illustrated by Sumit Kumar, coloured by Vittorio Astone, and lettered by Aditya Bidikar. So that is These Savage Shores, and that is published on Vault Comics. And yeah, it is such a gorgeous book. I'm just going back through some of the artwork here, and it's breathtakingly beautiful. It really is. And you know, some of the things they do here with some of the movement in some of the panels and the facial expressions and just everything about it is just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I mean, powerful book as well. Check it out. That is These Savage Shores number 4. And from there, I mean, Leon, did you read the first 3 yet?
I've read the first issue, but not long after you and Rahul were talking about it. But I haven't managed to read the rest yet. But it's constantly on my list to check back in.
Yeah.
Because it does, as you guys have spoken, like it looks so good, and like there is a real meatiness to the themes presented, definitely in issue 1.
Yeah, because it's a love story. It's a story about vengeance. It's also a historical tale. It's got everything, like, and as I've said before at the beginning of this little tirade that I'm going on at the moment, it's like this melting pot of ideas, and everything comes together so well. It's like there's no curdling going on in this pot whatsoever. You know, everything mixes perfectly into this beautiful, smooth elixir. I don't know. And it just works. It's great. But yeah, it's definitely one that people need to pick up and read. And like I say, the claws of this book just get sharper and sharper. And wow, what a book it is. So yeah, that is These Savage Shores number 4. So, I mean, from there, Leon, do you want to take us through something you've read?
Yes. I will start with Section 0.
Aha. Now, this is the one that we mentioned on last time's pull list, isn't it?
Yes. So Section 0 is created, written by, and the art done by Carl Castle and Tom Grummett, who are fairly old school dudes. I mean, these guys have been around for a long time, and they've had their fingerprints in a lot of notable comics, notably like Adventures of Superman, especially I believe Grummett worked on The Death of Superman, as well as a bunch of things, Hawk and Dove, Daredevil, Harley Quinn. Just these guys go back quite a while, and I think back in 2000, maybe it was a bit later. No, it was in 2000 on Guerrilla Comics, which was at the time an imprint of Image Comics. They released Section 0, and it was about a covert organization that is sort of run by the UN, and they are tasked with basically looking into all different weird supernatural phenomena. They're kind of like if the X-Files were run by the UN, and the people, if Mulder and Scully had powers as well, or if Mulder and Scully were like S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, it's kind of like the X-Files meets S.H.I.E.L.D. in quite a lot of ways.
If the X-Files were S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah. I mean,
yeah.
the official blurb here says Jack Kirby does the X-Files.
Yeah. And I don't think that's an overstatement.
That doesn't miss the mark at all for me.
No. So that ran for 3 issues, and then it was cancelled because there were financial issues at Gorilla. So it just stopped after 3 issues, ran from June to September, and then it was done. Gone forever. And then in the 2 decades following, Kessel and Grummett had been trying to get off the ground. I believe there was Kickstarters, and now it's back, and back where it began, at Image Comics. And it seems like the first issue, from what I've checked out, seems to be like the first issue that came out in 2000, but they've touched up and changed some things. But it's back, and it looks like they're finally getting to continue with and complete the story that, I mean, it must be really just frustrating to be on the cusp and have an idea and then have to sit on it for 2 decades. But yeah, now it's back, and yeah, you've got the squad going about doing their X-Files thing. So it starts with what is his name again? Is it Sam? Yeah, Sam. So you have Sam Wildman, and he's tasked to. I mean, he's on a mission where in a Southeast Asian country. He's on the hunt for something, but we don't quite know. And he has to like trick some locals into saying, "Oh, I've seen the monster that you've been talking about," and get them going somewhere so that he can find a teenager called Tom Talisi, who is basically is like a flyman, and through finding him, at the same time they get pulled to do a new mission, and that takes them to Australia, and Ayers Rock in particular, where there is something strange inside Ayers Rock, and that's pretty much the setup. Along that, we meet Titania, who is she is Sam's like ex-wife, but she's also like the main scientific person on this mission. We have Tesla, who's like a sort of teenage alien who he like pilots their spaceship.
Yeah.
You have AJ Keeler, who he's their leader, but he's like known for being like the leading voice or person on like supernatural issues. So I assume the world sort of looks at him a bit like he's a kook. Like
cryptozoologist and all sorts.
Yeah. Whereas obviously he's working for the UN and leading up this super team.
I got Mad Fantastic Four vibes from this.
Yeah, especially with his relationship with Tesla as well.
Yeah.
Sort of like a father figure. But so you have this group of these like misfits in a sort of Guardians of the Galaxy way, who are like tasked with checking out this strange happening, and we learn a bit of the characters in this first issue. But what it's really doing is laying down the main mystery and setting up the world. you have this other operative group called the Ghost Soldiers, who are out there, and they seem quite dangerous. It's quite funny, really, because it has this the vibe where we're creating like this group of like sort of uncanny. They're not really mess ups or anything like that, but they seem to be like a weird sort of band who have been brought together, and it's like I can see definite aspects of their in the future where they're going to feel like a family, and they're going to have to deal with a lot of weird things. I mean, there's an alien in the group and a flyman, but it feels like what they're going to interact with is going to be a lot wilder and a lot more out of this world. And it seems like there's going to be a lot of subterfuge of different allegiances going here and there, and like trust issues and all sorts. But yeah, it definitely has the buildings of like a. I'm trying to think of the era when it would have come out. Maybe the 80s or something. Maybe the early 90s. Of like this group who go out doing like a new superhero group, and I could easily see it them being like a Marvel run, just with their sort of their weird ensemble of like powers and abilities.
If I whispered Sat AM.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, and can you imagine? I can imagine like a really cool action figure line for these as well, and like some like really like high octane theme tune.
Oh, definitely. Like Defenders of the Earth type thing, but with less cheese. But yeah, no, it seems like it's weaving an interesting mystery, and the first issue leaves us in a place where it leaves us in a place where I don't know. I think the rabbit holes goes deeper than we thought it did, and there's loads of different questions are built up from the start. So I'm interested to see where it goes. There's a lot happening in a way, and I'm wondering like how they're going to sort of thread the needle on it, and how long they're looking to run. Because if it's not super long, it could be a nice compact, tight run with these screwballs going deep in the web of the X-Files. But if it runs too long, it could be a thing where it's just like another sort of superhero-y endeavor that I don't know, doesn't feel as original as other things.
Yeah.
But I think this has enough in there going for it where it could be doing something quite fun. And I like that it's having fun with itself and not really pulling punches in terms of dropping weird things for the audience to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I really like... I liked this in a way that I like the Fantastic Four and the X-Files, and this is basically the Fantastic Four does the X-Files, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. When I'm reading it, it's got that kind of vibe about it, and it's just nice and fun, and also it's lighthearted, and it's just it's out there enough that you don't have. It's not grounded in the real world in any way.
It does just like really cool thing where it feels. I'll probably have to go back and see if I can find a version of the 2000 one, because it feels like some of the way it's set up and some of the look of the characters, it feels like an early 2000s like comic, especially like Image or Vertigo.
Yeah.
I can definitely it evoked the feeling of a lot of comics I read during that time.
Same, actually. I got like nostalgic pangs when I read it.
Yeah, but at the same time, because it's like coloured, lined, and inked, like now, I don't know, like it just has this cool thing where like it has that element, but it doesn't feel dated, and it looks gorgeous on the on like I say on the page. I'm reading it digitally, but like it just looks amazing. So I'm interested to see where it goes, because this is the type of thing where, say, the original run ran to fruition, I could feel it being one of those things that's like, oh, you should check out Section Zero that ran for like 50 issues. The
kind of thing that people might recommend when they recommend The Boys to you or something.
Yeah, or like Why the Last Man or something.
Yeah. Because it has that kind of air about it. Definitely. And it has that energy that like you were describing, that kind of like early 2000s, late 90s energy about it, as where comics are concerned, which I quite like. And it did. I know, because you got to think, like, when this was originally like done, this was pre 9/11. Like, the world changed a lot since the original version of this first issue came out, but it doesn't feel dated. It has this really, I don't know, this fun feeling to it. And I wonder if the rest of the run, like what they had planned out, if they're sticking to it or updating it. I've got to assume the main beats of the story will probably remain the same, but I bet there's a lot of nuance, and obviously like so many different new influences on comics have come out since then. Like, it's 2 decades worth of new things. So I'm hoping that as it goes on, it doesn't end up feeling dated, but instead feels more timeless. Exactly.
I could see this being like a Netflix show, you know.
Oh yeah, easy.
After seeing what they've done recently with some of these comics, I could easily see this showing up on Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me just give the rest of the credits. I said the co-creator story and art was done by Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett, but also the colours are done by Ben Dimaj-Mully, which I think I've butchered, I'm really sorry, and letters by Comic Craft's Richard Starkins.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was Section Zero, number 1, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that goes. And I'd like to read. I'm gonna have to track down the if it's the same as the, because I wasn't sure if it was going to be the same as what was released before. But if you're saying it's pretty much on beat with what was out before, I'm gonna have to go track down the original 3 issues as well, I think.
That's the thing, like, I'm not 100%, because like, it's hard to find that stuff now, especially because when it originally came out, that stuff wouldn't have been online.
Yeah.
But from what I've like seen and read, it does seem like it's pretty much the same thing, but with a few updates to it, and obviously the art's been spruced up. Yeah,
definitely. So from there, I just wanted to quickly mention the latest event in the Marvel Universe that I've been roped into. Which is Marvel War of the Realms, and it is great fun. And it's this big, grand Asgardian thing that's happening in the Marvel Universe at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the blurb from the inside cover of War of the Realms number 1. So, as it goes, for some time now, the Dark Elf King Malekith and his powerful allies have been laying waste to the 10 realms. 9 have already fallen, including Asgard itself, ruined in a battle that saw Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, lost in the sun, and the Rainbow Bridge shattered. Most of the Asgardians have relocated to a brownstone in the Bronx. Now Thor has only a fragment of Mjolnir, an armory full of substitute hammers, and no way to reach Malekith, who has his own bridge to ferry his army between the realms, the Black Bifrost. Thor needn't worry about finding Malekith, however, for the War of the Realms is about to come to him. So the War of the Realms has reached Midgard, and it's just all Ragnarok breaking loose, basically. It's just like loads of warriors from different realms, one big huge fight, and it is glorious. So much fun to read. It is like, you know, like these fun Marvel events.
Yeah.
That you might remember from when you were reading them when you were younger. It's kind of like that. It's got a lot of that about it, and I really love it. And there's some cool tie-ins with Journey into Mystery, which puts Miles Morales, Spider-Man, at the front of a team of people to retrieve and save Thor's sister, Thor's baby sister. Like, the whole kind of like the Asgardians, as they were, the family of Thor, are kind of like all there. Like, Thor's mum is like brandishing a sword and fighting, and Thor's brother Balder is back from hell. Thor's got a pet dog called Thori.
What?
Thor's pet dog. It's mad. It's absolutely mad, but I love it. I love it for that. It's great. I just wanted to just bring it up and say it was really good fun, and then maybe when it's all over and done with, I will talk about it at length. But yeah, it's fantastic.
Nice. So, like, how many different titles are part of this?
Oh dear.
Like, is this the big thing that's taken over, or is it like a mini crossover?
It's a big thing that's taking over, because
okay.
You've got War of the Realms, which will run for 6 issues. You've got War of the Realms. You've got Asgardians of the Galaxy. Avengers at number 18 is in there. Asgardians of the Galaxy number 8 is in there, sorry. Thor number 12. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl number 43 is part of the event. Venom number 13. You've got War of the Realms Journey into Mystery, which will run for 5 issues. War of the Realms The Punisher, which will run for 3 issues. War of the Realms War Scrolls, of which there will be 3. And War of the Realms Uncanny X-Men, which will run for 3 issues.
Okay, so it's not like massive, long, eat the whole summer.
Well, it isn't, but yeah. It's gonna, 6 issues is 6 months.
Yeah, I'm thinking because different titles come out on different weeks, yeah.
Actually, I think it is running weekly, actually, thinking about it. Let me just, yeah, because I think that list that I had there, yeah, it's gonna run weekly, and then you've got, like, stuff coming out into May, so, yeah.
Okay, proper question. How big is that brownstone, and how many Asgardians are left?
I don't know. I've not been keeping up with the recent Thor comics, so that's, I've gone into this knowing very little, but obviously you don't need to know a lot to get the fun that's going on. So, but yeah, a bunch of Asgardians living in a brownstone in the Bronx, no big deal. Kind
of reminds me of Fables in a little way.
Yeah.
Where in Fables, like, a bunch of fantasy characters are sent to the real world or New York, and they have, like, a community in New York that nobody really knows about all their powers and everything, but there's, like, drama going on. And I kind of like the base idea of that, having all these sort of pretty much Asgardian gods hanging out in the brownstone.
Yeah. The treacherous Loki shows up as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mix, like going circular, a mix of the stuff that's happened in the MCU movies.
Yeah, it's Thor centric, but it's like it's everyone's involved. Most street level New York characters are involved. Daredevil's in there somewhere. And obviously, like I've just mentioned, with that list of comics that's from the back of the first. I think that is just like the first lot that are available. There's others though, other books available within the event. That are going to be part of the event. Like I don't think that's a definitive checklist somehow. So, but like, what I've had to do is I've had to just walk into the comic shop and just ask them, can you put me down for this and all the tie-ins? Because I don't know how many are in this web, but
you end up with a £200 pull list.
It's defied me anyway, because I've looked at it and gone, I don't know what's in this and what isn't. That checklist doesn't seem to be definitive, because every time I see an advert in another comic, it's a book that's not on that checklist with a War of the Realms logo in the corner. So just put me down for a list put me down on my list for everything that has War of the Realms in it, and eventually I'll get the full story. But yeah, that's how it's going to work. So moving on from there, I'm going to talk about the two recent Ghostbusters 35th anniversary one shots that have been out, because they're doing like one a week for April. It's like a weekly thing that IDW are doing. And the first two, we've got one that is the Ghostbusters Prime, so that is Ghostbusters 35th Anniversary Ghostbusters, and then we've got another one that is Ghostbusters 35th Anniversary Real Ghostbusters, and they're just one shots, so they're both number ones. This, like, we'll start with the Ghostbusters Prime one, and the story in this is called Heavy Water, and for me, it is like the perfect kind of Ghostbusters story. There's some ancient intrigues, there's gods, there's relics. It would actually be totally at home as an episode of the real Ghostbusters. And as always, the art and the writing are brilliant. It is the usual team, Schoening and all. Some fantastic comic moments here, some great ghost designs. I love the way they depict Poseidon in this story, and how grand his appearance is, and how alien it remains. Like, it's a giant silhouette behind a wall of water, and he reaches through the water, and his hand's made entirely up of like hundreds of sea creatures and stuff. And it's just really cool how they do that, like, because you always imagine, like, when you're shown pictures of gods, or when you're shown imagery of gods and goddesses and things, they always look relatively human. They always look like us, but with some trappings of what they represent. Like, Poseidon might look like me, but with, like, a crown made out of starfishes or something, you know? It's just... Yeah. But, like, I'm, like, always a big fan of them making things look otherworldly to the point where they are fucking scary. And they're supposed to be scary because guess what? They're bigger than us and they control things. And I just like the fact that when he reached through... It just looked like a silhouette of a man. And then when he reaches through the water, it's like he's made up of like sea creatures, and it's just something just wonderfully creepy about that. And like the fact that the way he was with the Ghostbusters, it's like they're so infinitesimal compared to him because he's a god. And you know, just that whole kind of like when Poseidon appears in the book, it's just brilliant. But the whole story revolves around Atlantis, by the way, and a relic that proves the existence of Atlantis that had been found and shipped to a museum. But obviously that relic was imbued with some bad juju, and the Ghostbusters wanted to get to it before said bad juju got released, which didn't happen. Or it did happen, and then it didn't happen, so yeah. It's a great one shot, and it's worth picking up. And then the real Ghostbusters one, again, it's got a very classic feeling about it. It's a very classic feeling real Ghostbusters tale, and it draws on the tone of the show and the now comic stories that we've talked about in a previous show perfectly, and it has the charm and the goofiness that we know and love, and it's just great for that. And with all the best Ghostbusters stories, there's like a running theme, and it's the balance between the goofy comedic elements and the actual supernatural elements. So it's like a fine balance where the stories can be fun and lighthearted without losing the authenticity of the threat. So a good Ghostbusters story will have it will keep things lighthearted without making fun, without making you laugh at the ghost too much. So
it's more like the banter and the them sort of lampshading the ridiculous of the situation, but with not minimising the threat or anything.
Exactly, yeah. So it keeps the balance pretty well, and the teams on both of these two books, they get the formula right, and that's what makes these comics great, and that's why IDW seem to be killing it with the Ghostbusters right now, because whoever they put on these books, they've got this formula nailed down. It doesn't matter which Ghostbusters team they're dealing with, it doesn't matter, you know, they just seem to have that formula nailed, and it always seems to work, and it never misses the mark, never falls short, and always does justice to its roots. So the real Ghostbusters comic actually, you know, felt like a real Ghostbusters story, and this Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters team, that comic actually felt like a Ghostbusters story. It felt like the characterization was spot on. The designs of the ghosts and the creatures were spot on. And there's just, I mean, I've said this time and time again on this show, and I do repeat myself when I talk about these Ghostbusters comics, but there's a lot of care and attention goes into these, and you can tell the people making them are fans. Definitely, it's great.
Do you think these books are good for? So I asked this like recently as well, but do you think these books are good for people jumping on?
These one-shots will be, yeah, for sure.
It's because I assume when people see like 35th anniversary, they might be scared.
Yeah, I know. That's just because Ghostbusters as a franchise, as a thing, has been around for 35 years.
Yeah, but I guess it's similar to the Batman thing that we had last episode, where it's like 70...
yeah.
Was it 70 or 80?
80 years.
Yeah, 80, yeah. I mean, he looks so young, but yeah, 80 years of Batman, and that might be like, oh my god, where do I begin? Blah blah. But I think it's easier to recommend, like, read this, because there's like loads of different collected stories where you can say to someone, oh, read this, or even that the Batman, the Detective Comics 1000. You're saying that you could pick that up because there's like just issues in there which give you the feeling and essence of Batman, without necessarily being like, oh, in an issue 934, Detective Gordon said blah blah. Like, instead, it just gives you sort of the essence. Yeah,
you don't need to have kept up. I mean, like with these Ghostbusters comics, these 2 one-shots, you don't need to have kept up with recent events in the Ghostbusters universe. You can pick these one-shots up and you will be able to read them and enjoy them and have fun with them. So we're going to go through the creative teams for the 2 now. So for the first one, which is the original Ghostbusting team, that is the one that is simply titled Ghostbusters, and that is written by Eric Burnham, art by Dan Schooning, colours by Luis Antonio Delgado, lettered by Neil Uetake, assistant edits by Megan Brown, and edits by Tom Waltz. The second one, the 2, which I've had the cover of as my phone background for the past couple of months, actually.
Oh, really?
Because it's that cool, yeah. It's the real Ghostbusters designs of the Ghostbusters team going hell for leather against what looks like a horde of ghosts, like a mound of ghosts with Slimer kind of like popping out. They're all kind of like, you know, animated in mid-action, shouting, chucking traps, particle throwers drawn. It's a pretty action-packed looking cover. And the team for this one is written by Cavan Scott, penciled by Marcelo Ferreira, inks by Maria Keane, colours by Luis Antonio Delgado, and lettered by Neil Uetake. Assistant edits by Megan Brown and Tom Watts. Edits by Tom Watts. And this is the real Ghostbusters in Spooks Away. And they are... the guys are against a rival team calling themselves Spooks Away, who seem to be able to do the job a lot more efficiently than they do, and always seem to be beating them to the punch. I wonder why that could be. And it's kind of got shades of Ghosts R Us about it, because there was a similar episode of the real Ghostbusters called Ghosts R Us, which in which a team of ghosts are posing as Ghostbusters and trying to put the Ghostbusters out of business by pretending to be better than the Ghostbusters. And this has shades of that, except they aren't ghosts, and it's a bit different. And there's some cool things going on, and it has a lot of nods to the real Ghostbusters show, a lot of nods to the Now Comics Ghostbusters stories, and it seems to have this kind of like it's great. It's great, 100%. And they are the 2 Ghostbusters one-shots that I wanted to mention. And I think that's the end of my list. And I think, Leon, it's you next.
I've got two more. I'll speak briefly about Ronin Island 2.
Yeah, I've not got round to this yet because I wanted to read it because we spoke about the first one, but
yeah.
Anyway,
and that's the thing. It was a couple episodes ago. We spoke about the first one, and I thought I'd pick up number 2 and see how things are going. And I think it's continuing in a way that I like, because you might remember on the episode where we discussed this, I was worried because I was like I like all the intrigue and sort of politics of like a new shogun sending his general and saying blah blah, it's like bend the knee, da da da, and like the island people being like, hey, we've survived by ourselves, like what is this? The shogun's dead as far as we know. And like I did like that kind of push and pull, and then at the end where they sort of introduced monsters, I thought like I was worried that it could sort of derail any of that sort of character development and that push and pull. But I think Greg Pak and Giannis have done quite a good job with issue 2 to, despite the fact that they're under attack and there's like a lot of combat in this issue, a lot of those interpersonal and inter-community issues are still happening. And you have things such as like occupation and sort of like the scenario of like an invasion, but the invasion is monsters, and sort of the uncomfortable things you have to do for the greater good, and how saving people who are kind of feel like your enemy, you have to work with them because like the main bad guy, the monsters, is coming. And it kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones in that way, where like, no spoilers for Game of Thrones, but the general idea, if you've ever been pop culture at all, is that part of the show is like House of Cards, but like medieval, and then the other part of the show is that there's like ice monster zombies coming to kill everybody. And the two push and pull things there are like, who's going to sit on the Iron Throne? Like, which of your favorite characters from blah, blah, blah is going to end up ruling over everyone at the end? Versus, how is humanity going to fight off these ice zombie monsters? And this kind of has this feeling here, where the two younger characters who are still quite brattish having to work together, but work under the general who's working on behalf of the shogun, General Sato, and they're not happy with like how things line up, but they do want to protect their town, and that seems to be the best way to do it. And I think that throughout this issue, they do a good job of building up the different tensions with these characters, and there's loads of different like insecurities and feelings all these different characters have. Like, there's issues of class, issues of standing, issues of culture, a lot of bumping up against like history, and like imperialism. And amongst all that, there's some like really cool action against like monsters, zombie horses, and all types of things. And I think that despite the fact there's like a bunch of like a lot going on, I think that the creative team here are able to efficiently and cleanly sort of bring us into this situation and understand it from various characters' point of view, because like General Sato seems like a dick, but he's not evil. He's doing what he thinks is the best to save everybody they can, but like his ideas and forms of survival seem come off as cold and dickish and like just straight to the point. And the islanders are worried about, like, obviously losing everything, but also losing their identity and, like, being ruled upon. And this is, like, a bad time for, like, tragedy to strike. And then also they have to deal with this new invisible shogun. And, like, to get us to that point, I think the continued use of colour is great, especially with how fire is used and the orange glows. It does have this. It builds this, like, intense feeling, especially during the fight scenes, but also this, like, warm, eerie glow that I think works really well when you're in quite an otherworldly battle against, like, sort of rock-looking zombies who just won't die. But it also retains that island, like Pacific Island type look with lots of blues and greens that makes you feel like that you're detached from the rest of the world. And part of that is, like, a blessing in a way, but under these circumstances it's actually scary because, like, they could be attacked at any time, and there's worries about how easy it is for the monsters to get to them. And then amongst that, you've got, like I've said, you've got all the butting of heads of the different like leaders, and I feel like it's leading somewhere that could be quite fresh. And it's like, it says it's the second of 12 issues, so it seems like it'll be a nice, fairly compact run. So I'm hopeful for what happens going forward and how they build upon the themes and actions and the characterization that they have laid out in these first couple of issues.
I need to read issue 2.
Yeah, I think you would like it. I think it pleases. I think it will please both of us who, going off issue 1, had different feelings about where it could possibly go. Yeah. And I think it will please both of us in that way.
So many comics and so little time. I have to pick and choose.
That is the problem, isn't it? But yes, Ronin Island 2. This is written by Greg Pak, illustrated by Janice Malino Janice. I always ruin this because the O in the middle. I'm sorry, Janice. I will keep messing it up, and if I meet you at a thought bubble, I'm really sorry. But it's coloured by Irma Nivilla, and the letters are done by Simon Boland, and of course this is Boom Studios.
Yes, and I mean, I can speak for issue 1 being great. We reviewed it a couple of episodes ago, like Leon mentioned, so I have actually been looking forward to issue 2. I just haven't got round to it yet. It's one of those things that's just sitting in the stack. The
cover is gorgeous. It's like Sato standing in like, looks like the forest, but it's like twilightish, and he's showing down. It's like a showdown between someone, like, in the foreground who we can't see, who's in shadow, and just the way his stance is, you can feel it's like duty. Like, you just feel it coursing through his veins, duty and honor, and protecting people by any means possible.
Because that's
really cool
what
cover.
Is.
Like, it could be a poster. It's a really good cover.
But yeah, I definitely need to read issue 2. And then the last one is another one from the pull list last week that you read, isn't it?
Yes.
Which I kind of flicked through this as well, which is Faithless.
Yes, it's Boom Studios again, and this is Brian Azzarello and Maria Lovett's Faithless. So the blurb, which is on the cover, is like a subtitle, is an erotic depiction of faith, sex, and the devil in the tradition of the Divine Comedy. And the cover is really cool. It's basically two of the main characters, Faith and Poppy, in a shower that is spraying blood on them, and they're sort of about to embrace. And it does cover the general feeling Yeah, general themes of the book, and that's the cover by Paul Pope, and the colours are done by Daniel Semanas. So yeah, this is a book where we basically follow this character called Faith. She's an artist. She is obsessed with magic and like the occult. But like as the opening 10 panels give us, which is a really cool layout, she's just unfulfilled. She can't get off. She can't even get off. She can't even start her morning and get herself off. So she's incomplete, and she's obsessed with magic. We meet her friends at the local coffee shop, which one of her friends is like the cashier at the front. And it seems like that thing where like these cool, colourful characters with various different colours in their hair, and they're just hanging out. You've got a character who is, I believe her name's Aya, who like dates and ghosts guys on a Tinder-like app, and she's quite aloof. You have got there's a male character who name I cannot find, but anyway, and they seem quite chill. They're just there for the banter, really. It feels like, and the cashier character, whose name I can't remember either, maybe it wasn't said. Anyway, she is very critical of Aya's ghosting ways, and she's very she worries about Faith because she thinks the occult stuff is dangerous, and like even if she doesn't believe it, she's scared that maybe she might actually unlock something, and she's scared what will happen if Faith does that.
I can empathise with that because I've like I can like the like even if you don't truly believe in something, you can still fear it.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like being supernatural agnostic. Like, say you don't believe in ghosts, but you if you stay somewhere and that someone tells you it's haunted, that little part of your mind might be thinking, man, like, just don't speak Latin in this thing. Don't open that book and don't push this thing. Like, I don't believe it, but I mean, you're pushing so close, you might unlock it. Type thing.
Like, I mean, I enjoy stories about that sort of stuff, and I don't necessarily fully believe that it's, any of it is going to happen or any of it could happen, but you wouldn't catch me messing around with a Ouija board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah. Because you don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, nothing's going to happen, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, the coffee shop character is Ginny. And yeah, they have their discussions about all this and not to mess with it. And it ends up with Faith accidentally, as she's getting ready to leave, knocking one of the patrons' coffees over herself. And it's a woman with sort of turquoise, maybe aquamarine, like turquoise hair. And she spills her coffee all over her, and Faith is really sorry, but like the woman, the mysterious woman, she like changes top in front of Faith, and Faith's sort of embarrassed, and she's like, "Wow, this woman's quite aloof and free, fairly European or something." Like, but she takes it really well. She's not mad, and she says like, "Nothing to worry about. I don't know. Do you want to hang out?" So what happens is that, and I'm not going to run through the whole thing. I'm just giving some of the basic plot points. Yeah. But yeah, they bump into. She introduces herself. Her name's Poppy, and she wants to leave through the back because there's some guy hounding her who is her ex. Blah 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 blah. He confronts. Blah blah blah. Like she pushes him away. Like, I don't want to hang out with you. Go away. So anyways, something really strange happens regarding a character we've met before, and Poppy's strangely aloof about it, but she lampshades it as being just her way of coping. And anyway, they sort of deal with that in their own way, end up spending the day together, like hanging out, bonding, and like, I mean, to cut a long story short, the cover happens, but less stylized, and they end up hooking up, and I mean, sounds good. Like,
yeah,
you meet someone who looks cool, who seems quite fun and mysterious, and seems to share a lot of interest with you. It's like, sounds good or whatever, blah blah, and you end up going over theirs and hooking up. Sounds great, doesn't it? Sounds great. But without ruining what the final panel is pretty horrific. And from what we've been told in like the earlier blurbs and stuff like that, there's definitely something satanic going on with Poppy. We don't know what it is, but we just know it's effed up. And I think, just based off this first issue, this is one definitely to pick up and follow. Obviously it's quite, erotic in places, fairly sexy, I think you could say, but none of it feels, gratuitous, and there's never a feel of, like the art sort of, objectifying the characters at all. It all feels quite intense, but like intense and real, but it doesn't feel like smutty. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's quite adult in that way. So if you don't read this on the train, that's what I'm going to say. Like, because the first page will get you. Don't read this on the train, but it's pretty good, and I quite like that in like small amount of pages, they're able to give us sort of feel of a lot of these characters, especially the main two. We don't know too much about them, but just little actions and little things from like conversations they have over the course of it. It seems that that I don't know, like they seem to be characters who are going to be fleshed out a bit more, and I kind of like the idea of this. It gives me feelings of like a Dario Argento horror movie from like the late 70s or the early 80s.
Yeah, it does have that energy about it. And also, just to bring up like one of my favourite lines, do you day drink?
Yeah. Which I love it. It's so fun, so easy. It's just like, yeah, let's do this. Let's hang out.
Let's day drink.
Yeah. And yeah, I really like the look of it. It has this, it's hard to explain, but it has this sort of like, you have a lot of, like, none of the boxes are like drawn with a ruler. Instead, there's a very looseness to them. The color bleeds out at times. That all the designs, like, there's an expressionism to it, but the all the faces and character designs are really detailed, and there's a lot of personality in how these characters look, and that's what the friend was called. The male friend is called Malcolm, but like facial expressions and everything feels detailed, and it even down to the pics of like how different characters have their hair dyed. Like, all of it has like quite a cool purpose, but then it's given this like this nice sort of this loose feeling, which I don't know. It keeps things quite punchy and quite light, which I could see how you could easily get quite dour with a story that seems to be bordering on like some quite fun Satanism. Don't quote me. Don't take that out of content. Fun Satanism, yes. I mean, probably said worse during the Sabrina chat. Anyway, but like, yeah, I think it nails all of that stuff really well, and I know I think it's a good way to sort of bring you in as a reader, and part of that, I mean, you could extrapolate, is that the main character, Faith, she doesn't seem to be sort of working in the lines herself, and she seems, I don't know, a bit adrift, so like she meets up with this quite confident, aloof person. I don't know, that there's definitely sparks flying there, and yeah, I think what it's doing so far is quite a fun setup. If you think like I don't know, a romantic comedy or something like that, this is like early on with if it's one of those ones where they meet and hook up and then something strange happens. This is that. But the something strange happens here seems to be super strange. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading issue 2.
I am.
But I will not be reading it on the train.
I've seen that. Yeah, don't read this in a public place. I've seen that final panel, and like when it's a really good place to leave the book. It's like it's like a really good hook for an ending. Like I love how it finishes on that. Like that is exactly what you want from a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and it's a cliffhanger for us, and not the character, which is what I quite like.
Yeah, it's a cliff. Yeah, it's the perfect place to kind of like cut it and leave it. It's the perfect hook to bring you on board for the next however many issues this is going to run for. And what you were saying about like how expressionistic the art is, and you know, with the lines and everything else, and I can echo that. It's a beautiful book. It really is. And it has that kind of that energy of a sort of like horror movie, one of Dario Argento's. Yeah, where it's like a sort of slow build up, but everything's not quite right. Like, yeah, there's something rotten at the core of everything. Yeah, like this seems all fun, but like if we were watching this in one of his movies, the score, the music would be going, and it'd be really unsettling, and we would just be off kilter. And I think that the line work, especially on the panels, does that really well. Do you know what else has that kind of vibe about it? There was a comic that I read and talked about on this show, Underwinter. Okay. And that was like way back. We're talking like the 5th show we recorded. So if you want to go back and listen to me fumble through talking about comics and talking about Underwinter, then that's where you go. Underwinter had a very similar vibe. Definitely. Did you end up completing that? I did. And it's great. And I should go back. Yeah. It's there. It's there as a TP now. It's been collected, so yeah, maybe I'll go back and check that out. You should. It's brilliant. The artwork on it is very ethereal, very watercolor. It's a gorgeous book. And it is Ray Fawkes, writer and artist. It's worth checking out. But yeah, that was Underwinter, which has a very similar vibe to this in that way. But yeah, like if you guys like the sound of this, definitely check it out. It's Faithless by Boom Studios. Story by Brian Azzarello, the art done by Maria Lovett, and the letters done by Andwell Design. So, that is the end of the list. And that brings us on to the pull list. So, I mean, I've got my pull list. I'll just go, starting with the 17th of March. It's April now. Come on, man, remember which month it is. Jeez. 17th of April, which is going to be when this episode is available. And on the 17th of April, I've only got 2 titles. We've got the next in the Ghostbusters 35th anniversary sort of collection of one-shots, which is the Answer the Call Ghostbusters, which is looking pretty swish. In this one, we have writer Devin Grayson, S.L. Gallant is the artist and cover artist. We have a variant cover by Anthony Marquez. Do demons get visitation rights? That's the question facing harried young mother as she tries to accommodate a stream of otherworldly visitors intent on paying their respects to her half-demon toddler. When the ghosts begin to herald the arrival of the girl's father, rumoured to be a Class 7 entity, Mommy knows who she has to call. The answer to the call Ghostbusters, Erin, Abby, Patty and Holtzman, find themselves mediating the custody battle from hell, and it's a scorcher. So that sounds quite fun. I'm looking forward to reading that. Also on the list I have Assassination Number 2, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, and that'll be worth picking up if you heard the glowing review that we gave the first issue, because it is brilliant. Yeah, that's the one that uses the really cool onomatopoeia that are really satisfying to say, like Tromid and Scanners. It's really high action, and it's just great fun. On the 24th of April, we have Thanos Number One, which is the beginning of a new run of Thanos. Now, this one begins, Thanos is dead, executed by the deadliest assassin in the galaxy, his daughter, Gamora. But before their relationship came to a bloody end, how did it begin? Find out in this all-new miniseries by Tinny Howard, Marvel Knights 20th and Age of Conan Bailey, and Ariel Olivetti, Death of the Inhumans. So writer, Tinny Howard, artist, Ariel Olivetti, cover artist, Jeff DeCarl, variant covers by a whole host of people. And so this is going to be the story of Thanos and Gamora, basically. So Gamora's childhood, and how Thanos shaped her into what she became, and how she eventually killed him. And that sounds kind of interesting, especially to me, a Thanos fan. We've also got Jughead the Hunger versus Vampironica.
God. Who will win?
Oh, yes. So, if you've ever heard me talk about Archie horror books before, I've talked about Vampironica a few times. And I'm pretty sure you've heard me mention Jughead the Hunger before now. Jughead the Hunger is basically a book about werewolves. Jughead is a werewolf. Vampironica is what it says on the tin. It's Vampire Veronica. And in the world of Jughead the Hunger, there are no vampires, having been wiped out in their great war with the werewolves. In the Vampironica universe, the opposite is the case, as it was the vampires who were the victors. So what happens when these two eternal enemies are brought together again? Whatever it is, it can't be good for poor old Jug and Vampironica. You can count on that much.
It sounds like, the Kate Beckinsale Underworld films.
Yeah.
Like in Riverdale.
Yeah, but like Kate Beckinsale's Underworld was a dark and moody, serious version of things that they used to do in the 70s anyway. So this is going to be like some kind of like B-movie. I'm hoping it's what I want it to be, which is B-movie grindhouse trash, basically. Like, I want that kind of feeling about it. I want it to be that B-movie horror, like slasher fest, monster movie thing.
Do you know how long it's going to run?
I don't.
Seems like it could be a nice short, like 4 to 6 issues.
A nice 6 issues would be good. For me, it's something that I'm definitely looking forward to reading, having read Jughead the Hunger and Vampironica. And then also we've got the 4th of the 35th anniversary Ghostbusters One Shots, which is Extreme Ghostbusters, which isn't something I get to say very often, because these guys don't get a lot of love. The old Extreme Ghostbusters, you don't tend to see them in many places, and it's always interesting when they do pop up. So, to read the blurb for these guys, the 35th anniversary of the Ghostbusters is upon us. Let's celebrate with 4 spectacular weekly comics featuring different Ghostbuster teams in all new standalone adventures. Some people wish for the ability to fully communicate with the animals around us. But when the furry, feathered and finny inhabitants of the Central Park Zoo start talking and demand their release, the people of New York just wish they'd shut up. Egon Spengler and his extreme Ghostbusters race to answer the call, unaware of one creature's fiendish plot to control the possessed animals and drive them to attack humanity in revenge for their incarceration. So this is the extreme Ghostbusters in an all-new adventure. And like I say, I mean, we had the extreme Ghostbusters turn up in Ghostbusters Crossing Over, but they're not a team that turn up often. You don't see them in very many places, and within these Ghostbuster comics as well. Like, they seem to be a little bit forgotten about, and I mean, I don't know why, because Extreme Ghostbusters was a cool show. But we've got Jim Beard writing duties. Keith Dallas is a writer also. Tim Latty is a cover artist, and got a variant cover by Anthony Marquez. And yeah, I mean, the variant cover actually looks that's like more that's basically just an aping of the original designs of the characters from the show. Which looks really cool. I quite like the variant cover actually, because that's, and it's got the Extreme Ghostbusters logo in the top corner. I mean, the other cover's really nice as well. There's a lot going on the other cover. It's like a big splash of all kinds of activity. All the characters in the firehouse, some sentient creatures, some ghosts and ghouls. But yeah, it's just it's all pretty cool looking. And that brings the pull list to an end. Leon, have you got anything for your reading list?
Yes, but I'm going to be vague, but I am doing something we don't do as often as we should on this podcast, and that's going to be reading some manga.
Ooh.
So I'm going to be reading right to left, and spooking myself out for you guys. So watch this space, but I'll have a few books to talk about next episode.
Nice, yeah. And that has been Ace Comicals episode number 60. So you can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which is kind of the hub for everything we do. You can find us to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Castro. You can find me, Greg, under at Bato on Twitter, which is Battou. You can find Ace Comicals on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can get involved with the conversation. You can DM us. You can at us. You can leave comments on our show on the website. If you want to get in touch via email, you can get in touch with us via acecomicals@gmail.com. You can send us your silly scenarios or strange, weird questions, and we'll do our best to answer them in an entertaining way. And Leon, where can we find you?
The best place to find me is on Twitter, at Leon Everett.
And that has been Ace Comicals. Ace Comicals over and out.